Good evening, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Cambodia Global Dialogue of Southeast Asia TV. We have finished for the year all the difficult tasks of chairing the summit, the ASEAN summit, and so many other ministerial meetings in Cambodia. And one of the things that come out from the summit is that in 2015, December 2015, Cambodia will be part of the larger ASEAN economic community. And in that, a lot of people are excited, they're happy. But then on the other side, the entrepreneur, some businessmen, some government official are worried, oh my God, we're going to be part of this larger economic community. How can we compete? How can we survive the global competition, the regional competition? And I thought that, I have a good friend who was Mark Rozario. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Agency for Innovation in Malaysia. And, innovation is something that I think is a future for Cambodia. And in the competitive dimension of a nation, I think there's surely a role for the country to move up the value chain. But you cannot do that without innovation, without entrepreneurship. And I'm just happy that I have on short notice Mark to come and share with us his experience, his view on how he sees innovation play the role in the development of a country. So Mark, welcome.
Thank you, Siphana, and thank you for inviting me onto your show.
Yes,
very good
Mark,
evening.
Before we start, perhaps I'd like to give you a few minutes to introduce yourself a bit, your background a bit, so the audience have a good feel where you're coming from.
Okay. As Siphana mentioned, I run the National Innovation Agency for Malaysia. It's a statutory body which was formed through an Act of Parliament. We just started in July 2011, so just last year. We're a very new agency, and it's formed directly under the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister actually chairs the agency.
Yes.
I actually come from the private sector. My background just prior to this was actually running a property development company, also in hotels and convention centers. I've also had a background previously in oil and gas, and so this is new to me as well, working for the government.
Yes.
But that's innovation. You do something new, and all the people that we have pulled in to work on this agency is also mainly from private sector.
So how did this idea, because Malaysia is quite an advanced developing country, you're well known in many different areas, in development, in your big twin tower and everything. Why the Prime Minister, your Prime Minister, feel it necessary to create a national agency for innovation?
Well, I think if you look back at during the two previous Prime Ministers, Tun Mahathir's time, he had actually launched Vision 2020, which is to get Malaysia to become a developed nation by the year 2020. We are just 8 years away from that, and our present Prime Minister, Dato Sri Najib, very much continued with that, and he's trying now to fulfill that vision of Malaysia becoming a high-income nation. So we're 8 years away from that, and currently, if you look at our GDP per capita, we're around 9,000 US.
Okay.
And our target by 2020 is to reach 15,000.
Okay. Wow, that's a big challenge.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And one of the key steps is to look at innovation, to move towards being what we call an innovation-led economy.
Yes.
So this involves everything from looking at what we should do in our education system. I mean, that's more long-term, of course.
Okay. Okay.
But all the way to looking at what needs to be done to get our universities, for example, our public research institutes, get them working more closely with industry, looking at how we could help to commercialize whatever's coming out from our universities, our research institutes, and the private sector, of course.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, you're talking about not just the government here. You're talking a lot about partnership with private sector, partnership with the academia.
Very much so. In fact, although we've been formed through an act of parliament, the agency, we are only here, intended to be here only until 2020.
Ah, is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
So by the year 2020, if we have done our job,
Yes.
we should be dissolved.
Yes, or
And the
subsume
reason-
into private sector.
That's right. I mean, the reason for that is because a lot of the things that we're doing should actually be driven by the private
By a
sector.
private sector.
But, you know, we realize as well as a government that there needs to be a little nudge
Yes.
in certain areas.
Yeah. You know, Mark, a lot of people mention about innovation, you know, we speak like that, but not many people understand what's really behind innovation. You know, perhaps you know, I'm thinking of, for example, innovation doesn't have to be your own creation. You could look at the other company and you can learn from there. Perhaps you can cite a few good examples, say Apple, for example, iPhone, for example.
Absolutely. I mean, innovation, first of all, what is innovation? Innovation is actually creating wealth from doing something different, or it could be commercializing an invention or an IP,
Okay.
or it could even be a service. So it could be anything at all,
Yeah.
as long as it eventually results in creating a new business or creating wealth, you know, creating wealth for the country, which is what our main objective is.
Okay.
So, you know, when you talk about an example like Apple, I mean, it's probably, I think most will agree, it's probably viewed as one of the most innovative companies, and that has resulted in tremendous wealth creation. Apple being, I think at one stage last year was the highest market cap globally,
Yes,
so the
yes.
biggest company in the world,
Yes.
and all that has come
Yes.
from being innovative.
You know, 10 years ago would be the big oil company.
That's right, absolutely. And how did Apple come up with this? It's not that they have invented all the things that go into the iPhone or the iPad. They have actually been looking at ideas and inventions and patents that have been developed by many other companies,
Yes.
you know, including the biggest rival, Samsung.
Samsung.
Samsung, Hitachi, HP, some German companies as well. They all have produced components that go into these products that Apple has actually designed.
Yes.
So it's all about design innovation, about marketing, about finding an area and actually identifying what is it the market needs or the market wants.
Okay.
And sometimes that's not even known. Steve Jobs may be brilliant in that way because he actually told you what.
Yes.
He told the market what they wanted. I mean, can you imagine 5 years ago, would you have imagined using an iPad,
Yes.
you know, a tablet where you can't even plug in a USB, you can't read
Yeah.
flash files.
Yes.
So many limitations.
Yes.
But look at the way it just took
Now
off.
it's everything. You know, with that, you can do a lot of things. But back to something more related to developing country, you know, because Cambodia, we're still a bit far away from this iPhone technology, so advanced. But if I look at, for example, Malaysia, which is, you know, quite a country that are progressing quite well to us anyway, you know, nationally, what are you doing? I know you, Malaysia have built its huge agriculture, you know, base as their source of growth for so many years. What are you doing, for example, innovation-wise, to take that agriculture, you know, the next phase?
Well, if you're talking specifically about agriculture, one of the things that we're looking at is in a palm oil industry, which is a big contributor to the economy. As the second largest producer of crude palm oil, we generate a lot of palm oil biomass.
Okay. What do you mean by biomass? What's
Biomass is the what was previously considered as a waste byproduct.
Okay.
So, you know, the leaves
Yes.
and the empty fruit bunches, palm kernel shells.
Okay.
In the past, I mean, much earlier on, when we first started producing crude palm oil, this was all. It was actually a problem. How do you
get rid of those? Right.
But in recent years, it's actually been identified as a very useful fertilizer. There's also a lot of fuel content, so you actually can burn it for fuel. But we see that there's potentially much higher value you can extract out of this biomass. So, there's opportunities as a country for us to look at creating new downstream industries.
Like what? Like what?
In biochemicals, in bioplastics. It's very high technology.
Yeah, high technology, yes.
And some of the technology is still being developed.
I see.
But, in terms of identifying where we can create these industries, so we actually looked at the clusters where we have all the palm oil mills and plantations, and the logistics as well, how you're going to gather this biomass, what sort of volumes, and then looked at how we can bring the parties together.
Yes.
The biochemical players, as well as the plantations themselves, to come together to look at how to start this new industry.
Wow, it's
quite a tremendous opportunity, because our estimates are that even just using 5 to 6% of this biomass, that 5 to 6% of the 80 million tons, will result in 30 billion GNI impact, which is gross national income, as well as the creation of 66,000 new jobs.
Wow.
And a lot of these are high-skilled jobs.
High-skilled jobs because the technology.
That's right. Yes. And if you look back 50 years ago, when Malaysia started going 50, 60 years ago, and we started to go into palm oil, we just produced the crude palm oil and exported it.
Yeah.
And I think we lost out a little bit by not taking advantage of the downstream possibilities of crude palm oil. You look at the likes of the big multinational companies like Unilever and Procter & Gamble.
Yeah.
They have benefited quite a lot from using the palm oil to create all these downstream products.
Like what? Like what?
Food-based products, soaps, all these things that are derived from crude palm oil.
Yes, yes.
So now we have this opportunity as well.
I see.
With the biomass.
Yes.
To create the downstream industries. We should not be giving the biomass.
Yes, indeed.
In any case, it's not so transportable.
So, I think, in the case of Cambodia, for example, I think we've been doing this a bit without knowing it's called innovation.
Sure.
We're pretty much an agriculture-based country. But in recent years, we start to become a net exporter of rice.
Yes.
And there's a many private sector who are coming to Cambodia to start pushing the idea, investing into burning the rice husk, for example.
Yes, that's biomass as well.
That's a biomass as well, to generate that. So I think we produce a lot of cassava. Cassava has a lot of
sugar.
Biomass, sugar. Yeah. So I think these are something that, for me, it's very important that the country start looking.
That's right.
As a source of growth. Huh?
Absolutely. I mean, certainly, this is where you should look at what opportunities you have as a country.
Yes.
With what you already have. And, the things like the cassava and all these byproducts, there are many other uses for it. So, this is a source of creating new wealth for the country.
Yeah. In terms of modality of partnership, of course, sometimes the state don't have the resource. In your case, you're lucky. The state have some endowment for you. But the role of the private sector, the partnership of academia, are you looking at academia is more from the patenting, the intellectual property side of it,
Well, we see a lot of potential to increase the collaboration between the private sector and academia, because the universities spend a lot of resources on doing their own research.
Yes, yes.
I mean, they have got the basic research, which is what we call blue sky, where they just look at just about anything. But then in the area of applied research, where it's much closer to what we call commercialization and the creation of IPs.
Yes.
If it's more focused, talking about applied research, if it's more focused on what industry needs, I think there's a benefit there for both sides.
Yes.
For the universities to gain from actually looking at the potential to commercialize some of the work that they've done, and for industry to actually use what the universities have spent so much of their resources on.
Yes.
So rather than industry and the universities all working on their own in their own silos,
Yeah.
You bring them together to work jointly and in these sorts of collaborations. There's tremendous potential again.
And it's cost saving.
Absolutely,
well,
and there are proven models for this that have worked very well in many other of the developed countries.
Yes. Well, what I know is that some of these U.S. Ivy League schools, they have more research endowment than some of the countries' budget.
Absolutely.
And
yes,
no
yes.
wonder they are so far ahead in terms of pushing their product. And so for me, I think rather than sit idle and waiting to be the recipient of this research, where they have commercialized already, so they get the profit. The idea of that we now take the sort of like the destiny in our own hand of it, to start innovating and to develop downstream.
So I think there's opportunities as well for the private sector.
Yeah.
To look, I mean, when you talk about innovation, it's about actually looking for ideas.
Yes.
At the start when we talked about what Apple does,
Yes.
This concept of what we call open innovation is actually getting ideas from anywhere.
Yes.
So, for the private sector, whether it's in Malaysia or in Cambodia, you could actually look not just at our own universities, but even at anywhere globally.
Yes.
You could see, okay, there's this work that's been done in this particular university. I think I could make something new out of that. I could commercialize it. I could make a new business.
So in that sense, your university must have produced a lot of patentable idea or product innovation. How can we tap that?
Well, we have, in fact, we have 20 public universities and another 27 public research institutes, which are more linked to certain industries.
Yes.
And the R&D there has all been funded by the government over the years. And they have produced a lot of patents and intellectual property.
Okay.
What we have done as the National Innovation Agency is to actually scan through these IPs and selected those with potential for commercialization.
Okay.
Written a business case, a one-page summary in easy language.
Yes.
And we've actually put it out there to the public.
And the public can.
Yes. So we produce books.
Yeah.
Like there's 50 pages in each version.
Yes.
So 50 of these IPs have been produced. We're trying to do this every 3 or 4 months.
Yes.
It was first launched by our Prime Minister to get the kind of awareness out. And it was open to anyone to come forward and say, I like this particular idea, and it's something that I think I could start a new business or commercialize.
Yeah.
And they put in their proposal. So this is open to anyone, and even for Cambodians, they could come and go into our website and look at this. But it's something that you could do here as well in your own country.
Yeah, yeah.
To create this sort of opportunity. So we see ourselves as a sort of like a matchmaker.
Ah, okay, good. So basically, the way I see is that there is Cambodia do not need to go through the learning curve. We can skip the learning curve by learning from Malaysia, for example, in this case, and the fact that your country have made this as a national priority is quite encouraging for us also to start learning how you do it, and hopefully we can actually see how you go through the process and how do you develop all these innovative ideas. Speaking on the I would say it's easy to look at the innovation as a hardware, the sort of thing, but for a culture that have yet to sort of like embrace innovation, where do you see the challenge of making the paradigm shift of a society who used to be the technology recipient rather than the technology creator, for example? The intellectual side, the mindset, the soft dimension, the culture, the thinking culture, the thinking process. How do you go through that?
Well, a few things that we are trying to do in Malaysia. Some of them are quite long-term. For example, when we look at our education system,
yes,
we see a need to introduce higher order thinking skills into,
Okay.
into the school curriculum, to try and move away from the rote learning
Yes.
that's prevalent in
Rote learning, you
school
mean like
system.
reciting, remembering?
yeah,
It's
memorizing
like a
facts
parrot.
and figures, and,
Yeah.
and going to an exam, and
Yeah.
you're just regurgitating.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
To more towards thinking and looking for answers,
Mhm.
through a thought process to identify how to solve problems,
Yes.
how to solve issues.
And this have to be starting much earlier than university level, no?
Yes, yes. You can start it. I mean, we are trying to start it in our schools. We've just launched this program to introduce the use of thinking maths
Yes, yes,
into our
yes.
school curriculum in the primary and secondary schools. But the other thing as well is, I mean, there are other things we could do in the shorter term.
Yes, yes.
For example, we're actually starting an innovation school.
Okay.
You can actually teach innovation skills.
You can?
Well, there are a lot of thoughts along those lines.
I see.
You can teach innovation,
see.
and we've engaged with some of these renowned institutes to help
Wow.
us on this.
Yeah.
Stanford Design School in the US, Hasselplatten in Germany, the Royal Society of Arts in London,
Yeah.
where it's a design thinking process. It's an approach how to solve problems and issues. And we are starting this program in February next year, where we're going to run through. We're targeting at the youth, so young graduates, young working adults.
Yeah.
And they're going to go through this program and then go out into the private sector or the government sector as what we call innovation ambassadors,
Yes.
and actually undertake problems and challenges thrown at them. So in a way, apart from helping to resolve issues and problems, they're also looking at approaching things in a different way. So it's an approach to becoming more creative and more innovative. The other thing as well is another thing that we're doing is what we call a national challenge.
Okay.
Where we throw a challenge out to the public.
Yes.
And say, okay, how do you solve this issue? So we just launched this last month.
Okay.
And it's going through our website.
Yeah.
Where the first challenge that we put forward is, how do you improve your own neighborhood?
Okay.
But this sort of thing,
So
it can be any kind of challenge that
yes,
you put out.
yeah.
So we put this challenge out, and we offer some incentive as a prize money.
Yes.
And anyone can just put in the proposed solution.
Yes.
And we're also, it's all being operated through a website where the public will vote on the best solutions that are shortlisted.
I see.
So it's not just a few judges looking at it and say, okay, this is the best solution. We get the public to look at it.
I see.
And this is how you get, you engage with the youth to get them to think a bit more.
In a very transparent way.
Absolutely. And this is just the first challenge. You can think of any kind of challenge that you want to put to the public.
Yes.
So instead of complaining about what's wrong with our public transport, or what's wrong with the garbage collection,
Okay.
you can throw these kind of challenges, and people come up with their ideas. There are many people out there who have many different ideas of how to solve problems, and some of this could be very innovative.
Interesting. Yeah, because I think many times, the way I see is that country in transition, we have a tendency to expect that the public sector can find all the solution for us, but the harsh reality that sometimes the bureaucrat do not have the experience themselves. They happen to be a civil servant, but they never been faced with real challenge. They follow through what they know. And this is quite exciting in the sense that, the state, your government is sort of like looking, okay, how do we harness the power of so many of our citizens to find a solution, and from there let the public sort of screen, okay, these are the good. Last night I went to a gala of a Chamber of Commerce where they are giving award for excellence, award for entrepreneurship, that sort of thing. I think this sort of challenge, it pushed people to start thinking,
Yes.
how they can improve that, right? But Mark, we're coming to the end of the program, as I told you, 30 minutes very fast. What would be the message, coming from Malaysia, coming from an agency that have so much support from the Prime Minister, with an agency that have a very clear yet very challenging mandate of 8 years to push the income of the country to reach from 9,000 to 15,000.
Well, first of all, it's not all looking at us. We are just contributing.
You're
to
contributing, but still is a challenging task for you. What would be your message for us, for example?
Well, I think first of all, when you talk about innovation, you really need to think about what are the opportunities out there. I think for Cambodia, if you look at what you have currently, what resources you have, and one of them is the young population.
Mm-hmm.
There's tremendous potential to be harnessed from that.
Yes.
The young population should be looking at how to become more creative, more innovative, looking at what opportunities there are to start your own new industries, new businesses. There are many ideas that can be garnered from anywhere in the globe. And the power of the internet as well.
Yes.
Is growing exponentially, and we should be mindful of that and see how we could actually utilize that to gain more knowledge.
Yes.
And to scan for opportunities and to think of how we can take advantage of these opportunities to help move the country forward.
Yeah. Well, Mark, thank you so much for sharing with us your experience with this new agency innovation. It's so, I think it's for us, when we listening to all this, we, in our mind, we're thinking, wow, how can we, sort of like be inspired? How can we learn from what you're doing? It's a challenging thing, but yet, if a country like Malaysia, who are advancing so fast already, and you are thinking about moving faster through developing a cultural innovation, Cambodia can also, as a fellow ASEAN brother,
Absolutely.
We can learn from you. We don't have to go far. And I think this is where the beauty of the ASEAN economic community is, that certain lesson, it better learn next door.
Yes.
Because the environment is similar, the condition is similar, and you do not see this big gap where you feel, oh my God, how can we ever get to that point if we are not there at this point yet, right?
Absolutely.
So this is something that I must say.
And ASEAN itself
Yes.
has the potential as a community of a market of 600 million.
Yes,
with a
yes.
growing middle class.
Yeah. So the market is big enough for new invention from the
Right,
region.
yeah. And we should all see how we can share our
Indeed,
knowledge and
Yeah.
tap on each other's resources.
Thanks, Mark. So once again, thank you so much. So, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are learning quite a bit about this thing we call innovation. I think Cambodia, for the last 20 years, we have gone through various periods of development, from reconstruction, rehabilitation of our economy, into development, and then we're talking about sustainable development. The whole thing is all about what? It's all about raising the well-being of the country, reducing poverty, creating jobs. We've been doing fine for the last 20 years. But I would say we're reaching a critical point that in a few years' time, Cambodia will not be anymore a least developed country. In a few years' time, we'll be moving to the next category of country, which we call the middle-income country. And the fear to many people was that, my God, if we get there, we'll be losing some advantage as a least developed country. We'll be stuck in the middle-income trap. What is the solution out of that? For me, innovation, generation of new idea, new source of growth is probably one of the answer. But again, as Mark has shared with us, that It requires a national commitment, a national vision that we have to take the country along that innovation route. It requires a lot of effort to work with the academia, with the public sector, with the private sector. How do you work together to reduce the cost, number one, but to also have this cross-referencing of idea. And I think it is more for this public-private sector academic partnership that probably Cambodia should pursue in the future to push this idea of innovation, of creation of new idea, new employment from new form of invention generated by idea. And I think we should be learning a lot from our fellow ASEAN country, Malaysia, who had taken this next step. So I look forward to have other speakers to come along that line, and in a few weeks' time I'll have the pleasure to have with us a Cambodian who will be speaking on science and technology and how we can use that along the same line as innovation to further the development of our country. So on that note, I want to say good night and see you next week.